Hello, my name is Bradley May. I'm a graduate student at American College of Education, and welcome to this presentation on the Bridge Model for Connected Learning Design. This model was created as a practical framework for educators who want to design learning experiences that are purposeful, student-centered, and supported by evidence-based practices. The goal of this presentation is to provide a clear structure that teachers, instructional leaders, and curriculum designers can use to connect curriculum, instruction, assessment, feedback, support, and transfer into one intentional learning process. Educators are responsible for many different parts of the learning process. They plan instruction, assess student understanding, provide feedback, support diverse learners, and help students transfer learning beyond one lesson or unit. When these pieces are planned separately, students may experience learning as disconnected. Connected learning design helps educators create more coherent learning experiences by aligning goals, instruction, assessment, feedback, and support right from the beginning. And this is where the Bridge model comes in. The Bridge model is a 6-part framework for designing connected learning experiences. Each step represents an important element of effective instructional design. The model begins with standards and purpose, then moves into relationships, relevance, instruction, assessment, support, authentic learning, feedback, reflection, and transfer. The idea is simple. Educators are not just designing activities. They're building bridges between what students are expected to learn and how students experience, practice, improve, and apply that learning. The first step is to begin with standards and purpose. Effective design starts by identifying what students should know, understand, and be able to do. This connects to backwards design, which emphasizes beginning with desired results before planning instruction and activities. When educators start with purpose, learning becomes more focused. Students are more likely to understand the goal, and teachers are better able to align instruction and assessment to that goal. Wiggins and McTeague's work on backwards design supports this idea by encouraging educators to plan with the end goal and evidence of learning in mind. The second step is to root learning in relationships and relevance. Student-centered learning does not happen only through lesson design. It also depends on the learning environment. Students are more likely to engage when they understand expectations, feel supported, and see meaning in the work. Effective professional learning research emphasizes the importance of active learning, collaboration, and attention to the needs of students and teachers. This part of the model reminds educators that academic design and classroom environment work together. Third step is to integrate instruction, assessment, and support. Assessment should not be something added only at the end of a unit. It should be built into the learning process so teachers can understand student progress and adjust instruction. This requires assessment literacy, which includes knowing how to design assessments, how to interpret results, and use evidence to support learning. Pastor's systematic review of teacher assessment literacy supports the importance of helping educators connect assessment knowledge to classroom practice. Supports such as scaffolds, accommodations, graphic organizers, models, and feedback structures should also be planned intentionally rather than treated as afterthoughts. The fourth step is to develop thinking through authentic tasks. Students need opportunities to apply learning in meaningful ways. Authentic tasks may include projects, presentations, problem-solving activities, collaborative tasks, performance assessments, inquiry-based activities, or even real-world applications. Research on project-based learning supports the idea that students benefit when learning experiences require active engagement and application. Authentic tasks help move learning beyond memorization and towards deeper understanding. The fifth step is to guide growth with feedback and reflection. Feedback is most useful when students can act on it. Effective feedback helps students understand the goal, their current progress, and the next steps that they need to take. Patty and Timperley's feedback on framework supports this by focusing on where learners are going, how they are progressing, and then what comes next. Andrade's review of student self-assessment also supports the idea that students benefit when they use clear criteria to evaluate their own work and identify areas of improvement. When feedback, reflection, and revision are built into the learning process, assessment just becomes a tool for growth rather than a final judgment. The final step is to extend learning beyond the classroom. Strong learning design helps students transfer knowledge and skills to new situations. This means that educators should design learning with long-term application in mind. The goal is not only for students to complete an assignment or pass an assessment, but to develop skills they can continue using. Transfer is a major idea in backwards design, because meaningful learning should prepare students to apply understanding beyond the immediate lesson or unit. In practice, the bridge model can be used as a planning checklist. Educators can begin by identifying the learning goal, then consider the students, supports needed, the assessment opportunities, and the type of task that will allow students to apply learning. The model also reminds educators to include feedback, reflection, and opportunities for transfer. This makes the model useful for individual teachers, collaborative teams, instructional coaches, and even curriculum writers. A major benefit of the bridge model is that it gives educators practical questions to guide planning. These questions help teachers move beyond simply choosing activities. Instead, they encourage educators to think about purpose, alignment, support, feedback, and transfer. This can help create learning experiences that are more coherent, more responsive to student needs, and more connected to long-term learning outcomes. The key takeaway from the bridge model is that effective learning design is connected learning design. Educators should not treat standards, instruction, assessment, support, relationships, or feedback as separate responsibilities. All of these elements work together, and when they work together, students are more likely to understand the purpose of learning, they will receive the support they need, and they will apply their learning in meaningful ways. The bridge model offers a simple but practical way to design with those goals in mind. Wrapping it up here, the bridge model provides an evidence-based structure for designing connected student-centered learning experiences. It reminds educators to begin with a purpose, build on their relationships, integrate instruction and assessment, develop thinking through authentic tasks, guide growth with feedback, and extend learning beyond the classroom. When educators are able to design learning this way, assessment and instruction becomes part of one continuous process that supports student growth. Thank you so much for listening to this today. I really appreciate it, and walking through with me the elements of the bridge model. These are the references that I used, and thank you again for listening.